Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about exam stress and mental health and how to stay calm and collected in this exam season, which is a very difficult thing to do. I 100% back you guys with this one because it is very difficult to stay focused in exam season when there's just so much going on. So I just want to give you guys a few tips and a few things that you should consider going into this exam season to hopefully make it a bit more bearable and just generally a bit more stress-free. I know that you're not going to be at a state where you have zero stress at all, because that's just unreasonable. There'll always be a bit of stress, especially during such a stressful time. But if you can really reduce that stress, everything becomes so much more manageable, because the less stress you ultimately have, the better you're going to do in the exams. Usually that's how it works. Firstly, I think the biggest reason you may be stressed is because you're not doing enough. Well, that's what you might think about yourself. You might think that you're not doing enough. And the best way to prove to yourself that you are doing enough is to show yourself that you know your topics. And obviously I did go over this in a recent video as well about like what you should be doing now until your exams, but this is like GCSEs, A-levels, whatever, any sort of exams that you have. Make sure you get up a list of topics that you're doing and just make sure that you know where you potentially have problems in. And if you don't have many of those, then your stress is automatically going to go down, because you know that there's not as much to worry about because most of the topics are fine. But if you do have a lot of problems in terms of the topics, then that's also fine, because at least you've highlighted them, you know what to fix. So then just spend the next couple of days trying to fix those, and then you'll be fine. I mean, it's not as easy as I say, but the more and more time you spend fixing those topics that you find difficulty in, the better you'll get at those topics, and then you're not going to feel stressed anymore. So it's really about focusing on what you're actually needing to revise on, and the best way to do that is just look at what you're doing badly at and make sure you do more practice on that until you do well on it, because there's so many practice questions that you can find online. Just do as many of those as you can until those questions get repetitive and you start predicting the mark schemes because you know what's going to come up. I know something like English is a bit more difficult to do that because each essay takes ages to complete, but the more and more you focus on a specific part, whether it's a specific play or a book or like a type of question, the better you'll get at it. And even if you don't get better, the more and more familiar you become with that type of question, and then automatically you're going to be less stressed about it because you're more familiar with it, you know what's going on. And if you do more and more questions, you're going to do better eventually. Even if it looks like at the start you're just getting 0% left, right and center, you are eventually going to know where you're going wrong. That's always the first step, to see where you're going wrong, and the second step is to see why you're going wrong, and the third step is to see how you can stop going wrong in whatever you did. And then repeat the cycle until you start slowly seeing progress, because as soon as you start seeing that progress, you're going to feel better about yourself and it's not going to be as bad. You probably know I'm going to say this, but it's to take breaks. If you didn't think I was going to say this, then like you should click off the video. You shouldn't click off the video. If you've clicked off the video now, then taking breaks is very important. And I know that a lot of the times you'll probably feel guilty about not doing work, especially now. It's like a very understandable time for you to think, oh, I can't go outside, I can't play with my friends, I can't go visit my relatives, I can't do this or that because I've got exams, which is fair. There's a lot of times where you are going to have to prioritize exams and you're going to have to put work in, because if you do play games and stuff a little too much, then you're going to find very quickly that you're going to fall behind and procrastinate. Don't use that logic to procrastinate. What I want you guys to do in terms of taking breaks is not to go on your phone and scroll through TikTok, for example, but instead use those breaks to go outside. Now, this is very important. Going outside is it's proven to help your mental health. And if you are feeling very stressed about your exams, one thing you can literally just do is just to take a walk outside. One thing I actually did during my exam season was each day I would force myself to just walk outside, even if it was for like 20 minutes or so, or like I'd get my cycle and I'd just like cycle around a bit, because it just automatically elevates your mood and it makes it easier for you to revise afterwards. And sometimes what I'd even do is I'd go outside, go to the library, go somewhere else a bit more distant so I could like focus and be in a different environment, and that way I'd just feel better. So I really recommend taking walks outside, even if it's like simply walking in like the garden or like just outside your house or something very basic. Trust me, it helps. Or even just like getting up if you're like sitting at a desk for like 8 hours straight, it's not nice at all. So please just get up, walk around, drink water, eat fruits. Just basic things like that is going to make the whole season of exams a bit more bearable, because it's not a short amount of time. You can't just squish everything in and just sacrifice everything. You really need to continue living your life through this exam season. Obviously you are going to have to tone down the social life and all like that sort of aspects, because you wouldn't really have enough time to get as much as you would have done outside of exam season done, which is understandable. Don't think that's a bad thing. That is just perfectly understandable, and it's something you'd probably expect as well from exam season. But that doesn't mean you should stop talking with your friends, stop doing things you'd normally do. You should still focus on those things as well and still have a lot of fun. But the fun that you should have should hopefully be more towards like going outside, doing something a bit more productive, rather than sitting at home playing games or just something like that. Right now you're trying more to go outside. Going outside is literally what I'm trying to say. It's one of the best ways you can improve your mental health. And what you could even do is, if you have flashcards and stuff, instead of sitting at home and going over those flashcards like that, you could just take a walk and review your flashcards on the walk, and then make yourself not allowed to come back home until you've properly understood all those flashcards. And that way, even if you spend 2 hours outside, at least it's a nice 2 hours outside, and you also get a bit of work done. So you feel good on two halves. You got exercise done and you also got work done. It's a really good way of improving your mental health, reducing your stress. Just seeing greenery is one thing that helps a lot with dealing with stress and anxiety, especially during this exam season. Now, this next tip I have about stressing for exams is a bit specific to me, but like if you check any sort of group chats at like this time of the year, or any sort of places where people are talking about exams, it can be very, very stressful. Like genuinely, one of the biggest sources of my stress was seeing my friends send these questions that I couldn't answer at all and start to feel stressed because I thought I knew that topic, and then they're sending these like extremely difficult questions. Obviously it's nice to like be able to help your friends out and answer questions that they need help on, but sometimes it's just as important to take a break from stressing about exams with other people and just to focus and realize that it's not that bad. Because if you get everything done, if you focus on each topic as a subject by itself, then it's not going to be too bad. But if, for example, you haven't gone over the topics and you're seeing people post these questions they have no clue about, you're going to get stressed very quickly. And so I would just say keep away from group chats and social media as much as you can. Obviously that isn't something that's totally realistic. You can't just not use it at all. I mean, I understand, but it's very important not to fall under the realization that, oh, everyone's revising so much and everyone's doing so much work and I'm not doing enough, and just that sort of thing is never good for you. So it's always important, especially when you're thinking, oh, everyone's sending all these questions, I don't know what's going on. Just turn your phone off, put it to the side and go, okay, you know what, I don't understand this topic because I saw this one weird question. Let me make sure I understand this topic. And that way, it's just going to be less stressful. Now, the last thing I want to say is to get your sleep in. This is very important as well for obvious reasons. You can't just decide to sacrifice your sleep every single day now because you have a month and you can't spend an entire month sleep deprived. You need your sleep. So make sure you get your work done at a time where you still give yourself enough time to sleep, enough time to rest, enough time to rejuvenate, if that applies here. It's really important to sleep. I mean, that's kind of obvious, but make sure you have a proper sleep schedule down, and not just a sleep schedule. Make sure you have an entire habit schedule down. Like, know your morning schedule and your evening schedule. Have some sort of repetition in what you do in the mornings and evenings to give yourself the sense of, you know what's going on, a sense of familiarity, a sense of like everything's going to plan, if that makes sense. If you wake up too late every single time and you cut into your revision time and you don't eat breakfast properly and you start feeling stressed because you've overslept and you've not gotten enough work done, you're going to throw off the entire day, and then that way you're going to procrastinate and you can't be bothered to work anymore, and you just do that work tomorrow, and then this gives you a bigger workload for the next day, and you can see where this is going. It's really important to just start off with the little things and to make sure you wake up on time, eat your breakfast properly, stuff like that, and make sure that you start the day off strong, because that way once you get your revision done, you can go, okay, I can relax, but not relax so much to the point where it eats into the next day and then you fall asleep too late and then you see the cycle. It's a really easy cycle to fall into. So really, I think it's just about fixing your sleep schedule, eating properly, drinking properly, going outside, and just overall seeing exactly why you might be stressed and what part is stressing you out. It's really important to just see why you're stressed, and as I've said, it's not a case of completely removing that stress, but it's more of a case of reducing that stress. And the best way to do that is to focus on all your topics and your subjects and see why you might be stressing. Right now, if you're watching this video and you thought that like you haven't done enough revision today, what I recommend doing is just to find one practice questions anywhere. If it's maths, English, whatever, just find a practice question anywhere and just do it and just see if you got it right. And then from that, you're probably going to get a small hint of motivation, and that motivation can literally be enough to start an hour's worth of revision. Even if it's not an hour, maybe just 5 minutes of revision, because it's really important just to start. And even if you do 5 minutes worth of revision, afterwards you're going to be like, oh, I just revised a bit. So it's just important to have a plan, to know what you're doing, to have a clear path forward, because otherwise, if you don't know what you're going to be doing for the next couple of weeks, then you're going to start feeling very stressed. And that's probably my best advice in terms of de-stressing and not worrying too much about exams, is to have a clear mindset and know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, everything's going to mess up. Trust me, it's really important to have a plan and to know what you're going to be doing each day, and also to get like the daily habits in as well, such as eating and drinking and all that stuff. And yeah, you should be fine. If you have any more questions, always leave them down below in the comments, and I hope this video has calmed you down a tiny bit. I personally remember how stressful it was for me at this time as well. I mean, I'm currently going through an exam season in a few weeks again, and I am starting to see a bit of stress build up, but I'm really trying to just think there's nothing to be stressed about. Like, I can go over these topics, all I need to do is start, and as soon as I do that, there's nothing that's going to stop me from doing well in the exam. Now, post-exam stress is a completely different thing, and we can do an entire video on that separately, but right now we're just talking about stress before an exam, stress for an exam, that sort of thing, that side of stuff. But stress after an exam, because you perhaps didn't do well, I'll make an entire video on that, because that's a completely different thing. But for now, you're just trying to focus on not being stressed before the exam, because it can really hinder your exam performance. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again next time. It was quite a ranty video of me just sitting here talking, but I hope it has made you a bit more at ease, and yeah, I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.